Now, a running back I wish that I could gas up in the same light as Dalvin Cook is Jonathan Taylor. Right now, I know a lot of people are talking about Jonathan Taylor, not even from a fantasy perspective, from a real football perspective. A lot of people saying Jonathan Taylor's a bust. He hasn't been looking good. And I'll be honest with you, I am one of the biggest supporters of Jonathan Taylor. I think that he's a stud. I think he's great. But I will be honest with you, in terms of 2020, this season, it's a bust. It's just the expectations we had for him with Marlon Mack going down, and Dalvin Cook assuming that role or Jonathan Taylor assuming that role and becoming a stud and like a top 10 back in the league. That's the expectations we had for him. It just hasn't panned out, and I think it's a mixture of a couple of things. And the first thing is definitely that the Colts front office and the coaches, they just are refusing to just hand over the keys to the Ferrari in Jonathan Taylor. You have an insane running back, and they refuse to give him. They've only given him over 60% snap share once, and they've only given him over 50 carries twice. So they're not giving him a full set of carries, a full set of workload and volume, and they continue to give the ball to guys like Nyheim Hines and Jordan Wilkins. And while in a small sample size they may outperform Jonathan Taylor in a game, you just have to let him get into a groove. You have to let him break down the defense. A lot of what Ezekiel Elliott was so great at, a guy that's very comparable to Jonathan Taylor in terms of as a runner between the tackles, that Ezekiel Elliott breaks down the defense over time. He's going to keep on running into that front seven. He's going to keep on. He's going to just destroy the will of the guys in front of him. Just very, very old school smash mouth type football. As I said, something that I'm not in favor of, but something I know that Colts team is in favor of. They want to build similar to how the Titans are in their same division. I know that they looked at Derrick Henry in the offseason. They drafted Jonathan Taylor. They wanted their own Derrick Henry, and the problem is that they just won't feed him like they feed Derrick Henry. Now, I know Derrick Henry isn't used as the same capacity as a pass catcher as most running backs are, but in terms of between the tackles, Jonathan Taylor can't get the fair share of carries. The thing is, you could point out that he's not producing well enough to earn those carries. That's a fair statement, but you have to understand, I truly feel like Jonathan Taylor right now in 2020 is being set up to fail on the Colts. When he came into that situation, especially from an NBA draft dynasty football perspective, we were thinking this is a great spot. They have a crazy O-line, and they have Phil Rivers, who always throws to the running backs like he did with Austin Eckler, Melvin Gordon over in the Chargers. And those things are, and the Phillip Rivers part is decently true, but here's the thing. Phillip Rivers, he doesn't have a big arm. The Colts lost T.Y. Hilton, they lost Paris Campbell. He's throwing to nobody. He's throwing to Marcus Johnson, Zach Pascal, throwing to fucking Jack Doyle, Trey Bird. It's an XFL level receiver room on that team. It might even be worse than the Jets. I've shit on the Jets receiver room. And what happens is, because Phillip Rivers doesn't throw the ball downfield, they don't have any field stretchers. T.Y. Hilton and Paris Campbell both were field stretchers. As much as they do work in the intermediate and short parts of the field, they have top end speed, take the top off defenses. The problem is defenses aren't scared of anything the Colts have to offer deep. And what that does is it breaks defenders into the box, makes it super hard to run on. Right now, Jonathan Taylor has gone up against an average of 7.4 defenders in the box, which is number 1 in the league. That's not a Colts stat, that's a Jonathan Taylor stat. So that means when Jonathan Taylor's on the field, they're bringing the defense is crowding the line. They're having 7.4 defenders in the box. And what that means is one of two things. They're not scared of Phillip Rivers, like I said. And the second thing is that they respect Jonathan Taylor. When Jonathan Taylor comes up to the line, when it's him in the backfield, they know it's probably going to be a run play, because if he's on, that's the thing. They're conceding their play calling when they bring Jonathan Taylor onto the field. If you only have him on the field on less than 50% of snaps, and in some games he's getting 17 carries on 40% of snaps, that means that when he's on the field, most likely he's getting the handoff. So what you're doing is you're hurting him, because now the defenders are coming in because Phillip Rivers can't throw the ball deep. They're coming in because they know Jonathan Taylor's going to get the ball. And the thing that I'm arguing is that if he's on the field for 85 to 90% of snaps, or even like a 75 to 85% of that time, then he's in the backfield and he's not always getting the carries. He's not always getting the handoff, because when Jonathan Taylor comes in, he's not going to roll out and get a screen pass or a swing pass. They know it's going to be a run up the middle. And the problem is that this Indy O-line hasn't been as advertised. They have Quentin Nelson, who's a sick guy. He's on Barstool all the time in the fucking chains and shit. And he's somebody I thought was really gonna. I thought, it's gonna be his third year. He's been all pro, but now he's going to really be dominant, be a force up front. And I can't speak on if he is, because look, I don't watch the O-line. I'm not an O-line expert. I would say my expertise: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and then everything else kind of flows around that. Objectively speaking, this has been a bottom 5 run blocking unit in 2020. But they were top 12 in 2019. So I don't know what happened. I don't know what has changed since then. I thought they had some good hosses up front. And I think maybe it's just because they're crowding the box on him because they don't have a quarterback that they respect. But I mean, last year they did have Jacoby Brissett. But like I said, Jonathan Taylor, it was as advertised. He comes into this Colts offense. He comes from Wisconsin's O-line, which is always elite. He comes into an elite offensive line in Indianapolis, and it just hasn't been that. And I think that most people don't understand that narrative. They don't understand that Jonathan Taylor's going up against the most stacked box in the league. They don't understand that the run blocking unit in Indy isn't what it was advertised. They don't understand that Phillip Rivers can't throw the ball deep enough to get the safeties and corners to back up, to get the linebackers to back up and respect tight ends, slot receivers. They're crowding the boxes, especially, like I said, especially when Jonathan Taylor comes in and they know it's going to be a handoff to him. It's a problem with the play calling. The play calling hasn't been as creative as it could have been, because if you're bringing in Jonathan Taylor only when he's going to get the ball, then the defense knows what you're going to do. That's the whole point in having an all-purpose back like a McCaffrey or a Dalvin Cook. They're in every single snap. You don't know what's going to happen. You can't just predict the play based on their personnel, and that's the downfall. With all this in mind, 2020, I can completely just forgive Jonathan Taylor for it. To me, Jonathan Taylor is a bulletproof prospect. He has that chef's kiss profile. He just is a perfect prospect. He runs a 4.39. He has the size. He has the speed. He has the pedigree out of Wisconsin. If he had stayed for his senior year, he'd be the all-time rushing leader among college running backs. He is a bulletproof running back, but here's the thing, though. He was only drafted in the second round. To me, he's a top 10, top 15 pick. And let's say he does go top 10, top 15. Then he's afforded the opportunities of a top 10, top 15 pick. And the problem is that us as the media, as the people, as fans, we expect a guy like Jonathan Taylor, somebody that's so hyped up, to be afforded a top 5, top 10 workload like Leonard Fournette was in his rookie year, like Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley in their rookie year. And that's just not what's going to happen. I know Marlon Mack went down, but you have to understand this is a second-round running back. We have to remember what happened with Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, Dalvin Cook, Miles Sanders. These are all guys that struggled to meet 1,000 scrimmage yards in their first season. And at the end of the day, Jonathan Taylor's on pace for 1,200 scrimmage yards and 8 touchdowns in his rookie season as a second-round running back. You have to give this guy time. The Colts are going to bring in a better running back. They're going to revamp their O-line. This is a team, they're 5-3, but they really don't play like it. So to come out here and say that Jonathan Taylor's a bust, that in Dynasty Fantasy Football leagues that he should be lowered in the rankings, that he isn't still the 101 in rookie drafts, you have to just don't be on the wrong side of history and write off Jonathan Taylor before his career even gets started. This is a bad situation he's in right now. It will get better. I truly believe by next season they're gonna bring in a better quarterback, whether they draft it, they sign it. They're gonna bring in better receivers. Paris Campbell's gonna get healthy. I love his outlook for 2021 and beyond. Don't take these last 2 weeks where he's been getting outsnapped and outtouched by Jordan Wilkins and Nyheim Hines as a cue that he's the next Trent Richardson I've been hearing. I don't want to hear any of that. Jonathan Taylor's the truth. He's a bulletproof prospect. I'll stick by that unless if he underperforms next year. Then I'll say, hey, he has bad vision, he's slow, whatever. But we've seen the tape on Wisconsin. He's a special player, and I'm just not worried yet.